You're done now.
What are you doing? Open this door, please. And what do you mean by I'm done?
I just turned off the breaker downstairs. So now, without the elevator working, you can't come down from the second floor.
What? What are you talking about?
I'm going on a 7-night, 8-day trip with my friends today. So fake mother, you starve up here on the second floor.
Hey, stop joking around and open this door.
Sure, I can open it, but you can't get down to the first floor alone. Your phone and laptop were downstairs, so you can't call for help, and Dad won't be back from his business trip for 3 months. The situation is hopeless.
My husband's child literally left me, who is a wheelchair user, on the second floor and went on the trip. She has crossed a line. 1 week later, when my stepchild returned home, she felt a sense of unease and climbed the stairs.
Huh? Why are you looking so lively?
Since she seems unable to understand the situation, let's explain it to her. This will likely be the final lesson as a mother, so let's approach it patiently and thoroughly. I'm Linda, a 34-year-old programmer. I work, I'm married, I have a kid, I'm just a typical woman of around 40. However, there's one thing that sets me apart from the typical woman my age. I've been in a wheelchair since I was in junior high school due to a traffic accident. When I had the accident, I was unconscious for 3 days, and even after regaining consciousness, I was bedridden for treatment. As a result, I didn't realize for a while that I couldn't move my legs anymore. I only found out that my legs wouldn't move when my mother told me, "Hey, when does rehab start? I want to play basketball soon. If I take it easy, I might lose my spot on the team."
It's about time I need to tell you. I think the doctor has something to discuss too, but the thing is.
After I heard the harsh reality from my mother, I cried all day. It must have been hard for her to tell me the truth. She cried with me the whole time. However, being the playful, mischievous, and lively person I've always been since childhood, I quickly bounced back. Well, there's no point crying over spilled milk. What's important is what comes next. While life in a wheelchair is inconvenient, it's been better than I imagined. It's been over 20 years since the accident, and now I've become so accustomed to life in a wheelchair that I live quite normally, to the surprise of those around me. I have enough upper body strength, so with some effort, I can manage to use the bathroom by myself. I chose a job at a company that understands wheelchair users, and now I primarily work from home. I need to go into the office for meetings about 2 or 3 times a month, but I commute by car during those times. I drive the car myself. I use a welfare vehicle that I can operate with just my hands, and sometimes I go for drives on weekends. In my 20s, I also enjoyed wheelchair basketball. While there are challenges, I'm generally satisfied with my life now. Despite my physical limitations, I was able to get married, which was something I once had given up.
I guess this setup is enough for our daily life. Though, your parents' house seemed to have more accessibility features.
That was just my parents going overboard because they weren't sure what was necessary. In reality, this setup is perfectly fine. We just need to get a stair lift installed.
I don't think I can do it myself. We'll have to wait for a professional.
I married Billy, who is 7 years older than me, just last year. Our meeting wasn't dramatic. It was just a typical workplace romance. When we got married, my husband and I rented a house and got permission to make it wheelchair accessible. By wheelchair accessible, I mean we installed portable ramps and added handrails. Simple modifications like that. The most significant modification was installing a monorail-style lift to access the second floor. But contrary to what we expected to be the start of a sweet honeymoon period, it wasn't quite like that.
I'm home. Mother, what's for dinner?
Didn't you say you were meeting your mom today? Didn't you eat with her?
She had something to do, so I left earlier.
I always tell you to let me know if you need dinner, right?
Oops, sorry.
My husband was divorced and had a child from his previous marriage. However, his stepchild is already an 18-year-old college student. We met before getting married, and our relationship has been good. She calls me mother. My stepdaughter has a good relationship with Gemma, my husband's ex-wife. They occasionally meet, and she distinguishes between me and her biological mother by calling her mom. Despite various potential triggers for trouble, such as my disability or my stepdaughter's situation, our family life started without any problems, and I felt happy about it. However, while I was enjoying that happiness, it seems that trouble was quietly brewing behind the scenes. 1 year after getting married, my previously good relationship with my stepdaughter gradually became distant, and now we hardly have any conversations. Welcome back. Do you want dinner?
No.
As soon as she comes home, she goes straight to her room on the second floor and hardly comes out. It's quite difficult for me to go upstairs because I have to use the lift. Therefore, my life revolves around the first floor, and going upstairs is only necessary when I need to get something from the storage room, like clothes or items, which happens maybe once a month. The second floor has become a convenient place for her to avoid me. I have no idea why she has become so distant with me. I've even discussed it with my husband. Do you think I did something to upset Karen?
You don't have any idea.
No, none at all. She used to be so friendly before we got married and even when we moved into this house.
She still talks to me as usual. Why the sudden?
It wasn't sudden. It started gradually about a month after moving here. I wonder if there was something unpleasant for her about living with me.
It probably isn't that. I'm sure she understood Linda's condition well even before we got married.
Neither my husband nor I could understand the cause of our daughter's change in attitude, so we struggled with how to handle it. We couldn't find a solution without knowing the reason, so I tried to talk to my daughter about it, but apparently, it didn't go well. Oh, you're home early today.
I only had a second period.
Wait. I called out to her, who was about to go upstairs as usual.
What?
She looked at me with a face of anger and indifference. I couldn't tell how she was feeling, but it was clear that she was in a bad mood. I've noticed you haven't been talking to me much lately. Is everything okay at university? Or is there something I've done? If there's anything bothering you, please tell me.
Stop acting like a mother. You're annoying.
She muttered quietly and then went upstairs. Her voice was so small that I might have misheard it. Surely, she wouldn't say something so harsh. I reassured myself with that thought to ease the shock. That night, I realized that the reason for my daughter's cold behavior was because of me, so I told it to my husband. It seems like I'm the reason after all. She said, "Stop acting like a mother. You're annoying."
What's that supposed to mean? Did Karen really say that?
He was understandably angry, and it led to a family meeting. After hearing my side of the story, He called out loudly to her who was in her room upstairs, from downstairs. Summoned by her father, she came down to the living room with a sulky expression and took a seat.
I heard you said something really awful to your mom. Why would you say something that hurts her?
Mom? She's not my mom. She's just fake to me. Treating a fake mother like that is more than enough, isn't it?
What are you saying?
Hey, don't start yelling all of a sudden. If my husband loses his cool at this point, we won't be able to hear our daughter's side of the story and won't be able to resolve the issue. Despite the shock of being called a fake mother, I try to suppress it and calmly remind my husband to stay calm. He regains his composure, and we continue the conversation.
Why did you suddenly start saying things like that? You never used to say stuff like this before, did you?
When I think about it, it's really weird. Dad getting remarried just a year after divorcing Mom. You must have been having an affair since Dad and Mom were still married, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
We explained that already. Linda and I work together, and we've known each other for over 10 years. We got married quickly because we knew each other well. And if you're going to talk about affairs,
You were always busy with work, right? Mom was always lonely waiting for you to come home. Isn't Dad partly to blame for the divorce?
Karen, Billy is a systems engineer, so being busy with work is unavoidable, and he was working hard at that job for the sake of his family.
Shut up. It's all your fault. You're the one who ruined our lives.
She slammed the table, abruptly stood up, and stormed out of the living room. I don't understand why she reached such conclusions, but it seems she believes I stole him from his ex-wife.
I sort of understand the reason now. Let's leave it at that for today.
But
I guess Karen is misunderstanding things, so let's keep a little distance between you and her for now. I'll try to clear up her misunderstanding.
I decided to trust his words and leave it to him. However, despite his efforts to clarify her misunderstanding, she was already in a state where she wouldn't listen.
Why are you being so cold to your mom?
How long are you going to stay with that fake mother? Just get divorced already.
What don't you like so much?
Everything about having a fake mother.
Then, when my husband talks to her, she confronts me when he's not around.
You told Dad to talk to me again, didn't you? Don't think you can just turn Dad against me.
That's not true.
Do you really expect me to believe your words after you took Dad away from Mom?
She kicked away the laundry I was folding. As someone with mobility issues, it was difficult for me to pick up the scattered clothes that flew out of my reach. She knew this and deliberately kicked the laundry pile from the bottom, sending it flying further away from me. Satisfied with the mess, she went upstairs while I struggled to pick up the laundry within my reach. My husband would then reprimand her, and she would take it out on me. This pattern had become all too familiar. To clear up her misunderstandings, we needed to continue the conversation, so it seemed we would have to endure this cycle until resolved. However, just when I was determined to patiently continue engaging with her, my husband's long-term business trip was scheduled at the worst timing.
I'm sorry. It's not fair to leave you two alone without resolving Karen's issues.
It's just work, so it can't be helped, right? Besides, maybe my resilience made the company think it's okay to send you on a long business trip. If anything, I should be the one apologizing. As for Karen, it's okay if resolving things with her gets pushed back by a couple of months or so. To avoid causing unnecessary worry, I sent him off with a smile. Honestly, the thought of being alone with her for 3 months does make me anxious. However, there's no need for me to feel excessively worried since there's no risk of violence or anything like that. I thought everything would be fine, but with my husband away, her behavior escalated rapidly. 3 days after my husband left for his business trip. Huh? Why is the picnic blanket here? Is Karen using it? I thought she left earlier. I thought it was okay to tidy up the picnic blanket on the living room table and decided to return it to the storage room upstairs. When I climbed up to the second floor, I heard the sound of the front door opening. Huh? Is Karen already back? Though I was curious about her, I went to the storage room. As I put the picnic blanket, the storage room door suddenly slammed shut with a loud bang.
Ha ha ha, you're done now.
What are you doing? Please open this. It seems like I've fallen into my daughter's trap. She's holding the door to the storage room, and with my wheelchair, I can't budge it. However, the door to the storage room doesn't have a lock. She can't keep holding the door from outside indefinitely. So, what does she mean by saying you're done?
Do you want me to open it? I'll open it soon, but first, listen to me as you are. I don't want to see your face, and despite being in a wheelchair, you're surprisingly agile, so be cautious.
I see. She trapped me in the storage room first to avoid any retaliation from me. Indeed, I've kept myself physically fit through basketball, so it's a wise move for her to be cautious. However, apart from that, it wasn't a very smart decision. Do you think I'm going to raise my hand against you, Karen? And what do you mean by done?
Earlier, I turned off the breaker downstairs. Now, without the elevator working, you won't be able to come down from the second floor.
Hey, what are you talking about?
I'm going on a 7-night, 8-day trip with my friends now, so I'll help you out in a week. Fake mom, starve up here on the second floor.
Come on, stop joking around and open this door.
I can open it if you want me to, but you can't go downstairs by yourself. Your phone and laptop are downstairs, so you can't call for help, and Dad won't be back for 3 months because he's on a business trip. The situation is hopeless.
Why would you do something so terrible?
Because you stole Dad from Mom. Just get a divorce already. Then Mom can remarry Dad. That's why Mom broke up with her boyfriend, you know. If Dad knew Mom's feelings, he would definitely come back to her.
Billy would never remarry your mom. Because...
What do you know? Well then, good luck.
The sound of hurried footsteps fades away. It sounded like the daughter ran out of the house, and when I opened the door to the storage room, there was no one there anymore. I stepped into the hallway and headed towards the stairs for now. Passing by her room, I notice a board about 20 centimeters high nailed to the bottom of the door. I can open the door with this, but being in a wheelchair means I can't enter her room. She has cleverly trapped me on the second floor, ensuring her privacy as well. It's a smart move. As I reached the stairs, I saw several pieces of bread and a bottle of water left on the floor. It's like an insurance policy to ensure I don't meet a tragic end. However, while I can drink the water from the tap in the bathroom, the bread clearly isn't enough to last even a week. I thought she was serious about making me starve. She has crossed a line. I've resolved to make my daughter and whoever is behind this situation pay for what they've done. A week later, she returned from her trip. I hid in the back of the room, quietly watching her as she took off her shoes at the entrance. After taking off her shoes and stepping inside, she started to look around nervously. I also sensed a different atmosphere in the house today. Additionally, the stair lift was on the ground floor, and there were shoes in the entrance that weren't usually there. However, she, not noticing these details, seemed to feel a sense of unease but couldn't quite pinpoint its cause. Nonetheless, she quickly ascended to the second floor as usual. As I followed her upstairs, I heard her voice echoing loudly midway.
Huh? Why are you here?
Should I explain?
Huh? Why are you so lively?
She, startled as she peeked into the storage room, was equally surprised when I spoke to her from behind. She seemed to be in a constant state of shock and confusion, her eyes wide as she stared at me, desperately trying to make sense of the situation.
You're not starved at all.
Of course not. Maybe you thought you locked me upstairs, but that didn't really confine me at all.
But the stair lift shouldn't work, right?
That stair lift is battery operated, so it works even if the power is out. Most stair lifts have that as a backup in case of power failures.
Wait, what?
Right after you left for your trip, I immediately went downstairs. Even if the stair lift didn't work, I could have called for help from outside through the window. As for the breaker, I always flip it back with a stick whenever it trips, so that wasn't an issue either. Oh, and thanks for buying lots of bread. It was nice snack. About a month after she moved into the house, her attitude towards me turned cold. She reduced contact with me early on after moving in, so she never fully grasped what life was like for me with my mobility issues. Despite living together for a year, it seems she didn't fully understand how the stair lift worked either. Right after she left for her trip, I used the stair lift to go downstairs as usual and immediately called my husband to tell him what had happened. She, upon learning that I wasn't hungry at all, quickly turned her gaze towards the storage room and pointed at the person sitting there.
Why is Mom here? What are you planning?
Let me explain that to you.
My husband had been standing right next to the open storage room door the whole time, but she was too shocked by the presence of both his ex-wife and me to notice him. So, she once again raised her voice.
Dad? Why are you here? Aren't you on a business trip?
Huh? I'm not on an overseas business trip or anything. It's Sunday today, so it's not strange for me to be home, is it?
He got more confused by her overly casual question. She's only 19 and has only had part-time job experience, and seemed to have assumed that my husband couldn't come home frequently due to a long business trip. However, my husband's business trips were just a 3-hour bullet train ride away, so he planned to come home about once every 2 weeks. Today, he came home earlier than planned because of what happened with my daughter.
I heard everything from your mother. You've been acting up, and you even mentioned divorce.
Exactly. It's all because of this fake wife. If she wasn't here, Mom could remarry you.
I will never divorce, and I won't remarry with Gemma.
Why not? Maybe Mom's affair could be the cause of the divorce, but wasn't it also because Dad was always busy with work? Besides, Mom regrets it and broke up with her affair partner because she can't forget about you and is waiting for you.
My husband and I sighed as we listened to her words. His ex-wife seemed unable to bear this atmosphere, lowering her head significantly and staring at the floor.
Gemma, explain it yourself. That's why I brought you here.
Yes. My affair had nothing to do with your job. I simply enjoyed fooling around with other men.
That's a lie, right? You said the affair was because of Dad's job. And you couldn't forget about Dad, so you broke up with your affair partner, right?
No, that's not true. I was dumped again because I cheated. I've been working part-time with little income for so long, and now I'm over 40 and can't find a new job. I couldn't catch another man either, and I was struggling financially, so I thought I'd ask Billy for help again. But then I heard Billy got remarried.
So, you lied to Karen, who you were occasionally meeting, about the reason for the affair, and you even made up stories about me having an affair with Linda before our divorce to try and ruin our marriage.
Yes, that's right.
When she locked me upstairs, she mentioned she wanted to remarry my husband. So, as soon as he received my message, he contacted his ex-wife. When he confronted his ex-wife, it came to light that she had been feeding my stepdaughter various things to manipulate her. To dispel her misconception that I had stolen him from his ex-wife, it was best to hear the truth from his ex-wife's own mouth. So, he brought her to the house on the day my stepdaughter returned from her trip.
No way. So, was I being deceived by Mom?
In this scenario, she emerges as the mastermind, and my stepdaughter may seem like a victim. However, even if she was deceived, she clearly crossed a line. Therefore, he also intends to take a tough stance, steeling himself for it.
Gemma, who deceived Karen, is at fault, but so are you. You went too far. Don't come back to this house anymore.
What do you mean? I was being deceived.
Even if you were deceived, you locked your mother upstairs and tried to starve her. If the stair lift hadn't worked, you might have been arrested for confinement. We can't accept someone who would do something like that as part of my family.
Since the stair lift did work, what she did doesn't qualify as confinement. However, that's just a hindsight. She did try to confine me by keeping me unable to move from the second floor. Confinement is a serious crime with only imprisonment as punishment, without the option of a fine. She might have thought that it was okay because I could freely move around the second floor and had access to water and food. However, this goes beyond childish pranks and jokes. Besides, she is no longer a child.
But still, I'm only 19. Isn't it unreasonable to kick me out of the house before I even turn 20?
Legally, adulthood starts at 18. The parental rights have already expired. You're not a child who can get away with being spoiled anymore.
What's that supposed to mean? Isn't it ridiculous to call me an adult when I'm still a student and can't do anything?
It's the law, so there's nothing we can do about it. If you have complaints, take it up with the government. I'll cover your tuition until you graduate from university. But you'll have to figure out accommodation and living expenses.
That's impossible, obviously. I can go to Mom's place, right? She'll take care of me, will she?
It's impossible for me. I was desperate for money and even tried to use you, so there's no way I can take care of you.
Whatever the law says, I'm still a child. If you're a parent, take responsibility. Make amends for deceiving me.
Abandoned by my husband, she has no choice but to rely on his ex-wife, but she doesn't have the financial means to support her. There's also an option of relying on her grandparents, but they all live too far from the university for her to commute. Therefore, she has to rely on her mother, even though she knows she has financial problems.
But, can't I just live with you?
If you come live with me, I'll end up being responsible for your living expenses anyway, right? I can see what's coming.
I'm different from you.
No, you're just like me. After all, you were born from me.
The ugly, self-deprecating argument continues in front of me. I wish they would stop fighting in someone else's home. I'm sorry, but could you please continue this discussion somewhere else? They left the house in silence. I felt a little sorry for her, but as my husband says, she is no longer a child. If things had gone slightly differently, my life might have been in danger. It's a parent's duty to make their child realize the gravity of their actions. I hope for my daughter's growth from here on out as I bid her farewell. In the end, she ended up living with his ex-wife. Since she didn't have much money, they lived in a cramped and cheap apartment. It seems that with her daughter moving in, there's no privacy or comfort there. As she lives in his ex-wife's apartment, she was asked to contribute to living expenses such as rent and utility bills. Since my husband only covers tuition fees, she pays these expenses from her earnings at her part-time job. However, since she is a student, she can't just work all the time. As a result, most of her earnings from her part-time job go towards living expenses, and she can no longer afford to go out with friends. It's tough to miss out on the most enjoyable time of hanging out with friends. There's also the possibility of losing friends if she can't keep up with social activities. Perhaps she should see this as part of the consequences of her actions and learn to accept it. On the other hand, his ex-wife's life has become a little easier now that she receives some financial help for living expenses. With life becoming easier, it seems his ex-wife has decided to continue working part-time instead of seeking full-time employment. Seeing this, her daughter, who is struggling financially, is not happy.
Why don't you get a full-time job instead of just working part-time?
If my income increases, you're not going to contribute to living expenses, are you?
It seems they often have arguments about money like this. My husband is willing to support his daughter once she shows remorse, but that might take some time. She is no longer with us. We've started our married life as just the two of us. Although it's been over a year since we got married, we're enjoying our time together as if we were newlyweds once again.